우리 곁낼 것처럼 시간을 뒤쫓는 시계바늘처럼 앞질러 가고 싶어 하지 그 어느 원선을 넘어 저마다 삶을 향해 때론 원망도 하겠지 그 선을 먼저 넘지 말라고 I can fly the sky Never gonna stay 내가 지쳐 쓰러질 때까지 어떤 이유도 어떤 변명도 지금 내겐 용기가 필요해 빛나지 않아도 내 꿈을 응원해 그 마지막을 가질 테니 부러진 것처럼 한 발로 뛰어도 난 나의 길을 갈 테니까 지금 나를 위한 약속 멈추지 않겠다고 또 하나를 앞지르며
I never want the countdown song to end, guys. Hello and welcome to K-Talk, Saturday, January 20th. I'm super excited about today's guest. That song, anybody here who's here, hello. Where is that song from? It is a part, I mean, obviously it's also a standalone song, but it comes from a K-drama OST. Just wanted to give that. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, I knew somebody would get it, right? Isn't that a good song? Yeah, and just so you know, the songs are chosen by my guests. We ask them what song that we could play in the countdown. So welcome. Hello, everybody. I have a few updates. So just to always start with some updates, you may have noticed that this week we launched a media component. Yeah, because that's the journalist in me. And also I wanted to feature what I would say is newsworthy stuff from the mental health perspective. So everything is always from a mental health perspective. So Nuna's nuances, just thought that was catchy. You know, nuances, right? Everything is nuanced in mental health are the media component. And you will start seeing some awesome writers and Puja being one of them. So look out for that. We will have some good stuff coming out. So that's just more content. And let me know if there's some things that you want us to write about, or let me know if you want to write. Okay. So we'll go from there. I meant to bring up the update on my book. So I have some big news that I'll talk about next week regarding my book, but you guys, it is full swing with promotion. And I'm going to say this, those of you, I know a lot of you, especially on my tours, already ordered the book. There is a webinar that comes with that. I recorded the webinar a little late just to my busy schedule, but just let me know. You can DM me and I'll make sure that you get access to that. It's a private webinar, locked webinar, just giving you a glimpse of my work. If you purchase the book, you get a free webinar from me. So I want to make sure you got a gift for doing that and supporting my work. So thank you. Now on the tours, you'll hear some updates too next week on the tours, but yeah, just beginning. All the prep it's getting a little bit, I would say, fun because lots of emails going out. If you are participating in the spring tours, especially, you've gotten quite a bit of emails on logistics. So it's getting really fun. And I'm consistently starting to meet with our Korea team, which is great. So we said Happy New Year last week and talked about all the good stuff. And I'm so excited. Of course, I'm going to up myself. So the tours are even better. Of course, and new K-dramas, new sites, a little more complicated. I don't think any more walking though. Don't worry. It's not more walking. It's the same amount of walking and then new guests appearing on my tour. So stay tuned for that. And we'll be giving some big announcements such as the itinerary this coming week. Ooh, look out for that. All right, guys, without further ado, I'm going to bring on my favorite journalist. I'm trying to think, is it okay to say that? My favorite journalist from India. How about that? Puja Talwar. I absolutely adore this woman. I met her, I want to say, was it early on in the pandemic? Like a lot of people met. And why did we meet? Yeah, our love over K-dramas. I think she and I got to talking and she loved the mental health component. She might have done, I think she interviewed me for something. And then we became fast friends, as most people do when you're talking about a passion that you love, but also talking about who you are and your well-being and your emotions and how you feel about life. Plus, we're around the same age And that does matter because we'll have like the same perspective on a lot of things, because age does matter, when it comes to like certain things that you've been through. So let's bring her on stage, guys. Puja, yay for joining us. Come on in, or come on to the back, to the stage. Yay. I'm so excited. And she says it's people. I don't know if other people assume this in India, where I assume it's the same weather. No, it's cold where you are.
It's
right?
extremely cold. But firstly, many, many congratulations for Noona's Nuances and for your book. And I'm just so excited. And I would like to be interviewing you for all of that, as always, because I admire your work. So way to go, onwards and upwards, as they say.
That's right. But let's talk about you, because you've done some cool stuff. So let's start first. So my word of the year is transformation. I always ask my guests, what is your word for 2024?
I thought about that because we had this conversation and you'd asked me for my word. And I kept thinking about it. First, I said determination. I said, no, I am determined. And then I kept thinking to myself, it would be calm down, calm for me, because I'm super hyper. I'm so highly strung. I need to calm down. I need to let it go.
Yeah. I could use that too. I'll steal everybody's words too. But okay, so you're for calm down and calm. You're great at that word because it sounds like that's something you want to work on. I love that. Okay. Everyone's saying hi to you. Hi, Puja. Yeah. You guys, thank you for being here. Hello from Chile, Canada, and wherever you guys are. Let me know. But
hi.
So thank you. I love calm. All right. I love it. So on that calm note, of course, I like to ask this. How have K-dramas, it's a big question, transformed your life?
Well, it is a big question because, it came to me at a time when, compared to what I've been through in the last 5 years, about it, about changing jobs and being in a toxic environment. K-dramas came to me much before that. And they came to me at a time when, I'm a super active person, and suddenly I had a gym accident and I was bedridden. I had nothing to do.
Remember that.
And they came to me at a time when it was like utopia. You know what I mean? I started watching them and I just felt this is another world, that this world does not exist. It's like my own, what would I say, my Graceland, my fairyland,
Your utopia. I like that.
It was my utopia. And, but then as I started watching them, it also kind of empowered me. Like, I'll give you the show Search WW, if you watched it, about 3 women in the workforce. I resonated with the lead character, Beta Me, because sometimes how difficult it is for you as a woman when you're working alongside, I'm nothing against my gender, where this whole power play comes in. And when you stand up for the right, you're usually not liked by people. And it kind of empowered me because where these women took agency. But then you have a show like a Reply 1988. It's my go-to show because I think it's set in 88. In 88, I was 16, I think more or less what's their age also. Yeah. There was a statement that's made by Harry Doxon in the show where she says, in the end, she says, I'm now getting goosebumps, where she says, I miss the time when my parents were young and, and my neighborhood was what it was. It's just that we are in such a hurry to grow up. Wow. And to think in the world that we kind of lose touch with our reality and we are not in that moment. And today, now, the other day, I was just thinking about, wish I had spent more time and enjoyed my nephews when they were toddlers. Now they are strapping teens who have no time. Yeah. Then they had all the time, but you were in this whole mad rush. You're ambivalent that you were just so waylaid by other things happening that you didn't focus. Those times are not going to come back. I see my own parents, they're aging. I just wish that maybe when they were young, I'd spent more time and asked them about them,
Wow, you're getting so deep here, Puja, reflecting on life. Just so the calm really word works for you then, calm. That really does slowing you down.
That maybe it's an existential crisis at the age of 50. So honestly, because they all say that, your present situation is related to your past. I just wish one, even with friends, a show like Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha, Welcome to Sandal, go back to your tribe. Your tribe is what stands for you, but we are so busy seeking validation from the world. So That's what
Wow.
to me.
That's so well said. Seeking validation from the world, but going back to your tribe. Well, belongingness, right? That's how we connected. And thank you for sharing that. And so on that note, I mean, you got a lot of good questions from followers that I was like, wow, that's a little bit deep there. So we're going to ask that shortly. But you said something interesting about when you turned to K dramas, just because I wanted you kind of glossed over the story, but you said that you had a gym accident.
Yes.
And obviously, when you're going through something, you were seeking that. How did you, as you're laid up in bed, did you just decide I'm going to scroll and find a K drama, or you had known about them? I guess I'm
You know,
curious.
I had no idea about K dramas. Absolutely no idea. My only connect with Korea was, I mean, while growing up, now I'm going back to 1988. My dad, being in the armed forces, had Korean naval officers visiting India. And I still remember one of them had come home. She saw the poster of Top Gun. She said, "Oh, my daughter in Seoul is also watching this film." So, my connection with Korea was such, and then history, being a history student. And then, of course, Psy Gangnam Style had happened. But being a news reporter, we just filed it as the big rage. Yeah, I was not watching Korean films. I was not consuming Korean dramas. And it's just that way in bed, I had nothing better to do. I could not go back to my American shows. I used to watch a lot of homegrown content, especially Pakistani dramas. Till a colleague messaged me saying, hey, she was in the United Arab Emirates, saying, I have, made friends with these few Korean girls, and they suggested that we watch Korean dramas. I was like, I don't understand the language. And my brother was in Singapore, and my sister-in-law wrote to me, this Korean drama called Descendants of the Sun is a rage here. I was like, I'm not understanding this. And they had KBS also in Singapore, but I would just bypass the channel. She said, the colleague was, why don't you just give it a shot? I said, I can't. She said, give it a shot. You have nothing better to do in life. You can't go to work. You're bedridden. Give it a shot. I'm not kidding you, Jenny. It was a grainy YouTube copy because I didn't even know that Kiss Asia and Drama Pool existed.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It was Drama Fever back then, or I don't know when it was, but yeah.
There was no Netflix. And I started with Descendants of the Sun. I was like, why am I watching these army officers fighting North Korean? I thought, okay, Puja, 10 minutes. And suddenly they cut to Song Joong-ki and his wingman together running. And I'm like, okay, that's it. And after episode 1, I was hooked. Hooked.
That's right. That's right. You were hooked. And I forgot to mention, that's one of your all-time favorite K-dramas. Because it was your first, but you also love Song Joong-ki. Yeah. You guys, she was talking about Descendants of the Sun. I think it's a 2016 K-drama, but you fell in love. I can't believe you saw it.
April 2016 was the first year I started watching Descendants of the Sun.
Yeah.
And it was winding up. I think it concluded on the 25th of April.
Okay. Okay. Look at you, know all the details. And then you, of course, you told me this. This and this other drama we'll talk about was the only dramas you've seen more than once.
Descendants of the Sun thrice because the YouTube copy was very grainy. Then I went to Drama Pool where it was a better copy. And then when I saw it on Netflix, I watched it again because it was a far better.
Of course. And then let's talk about your other favorite K-drama, which I will say, when she told me this, I went, I never heard of this. So share it with me, please. Please.
It's Queen of the Game, and it's a 2006 drama. And this again was recommended by the same colleague because what I did was after I watched Descendants of the Sun, I started Googling and researching about who these actors were. So, and Queen of the Game was my 4th K-drama because I watched Descendants of the Sun, Lie to Me, the K2, Ji Chang-wook. And then she said, oh, watch this drama, this hero. I was like, fine. And that drama is you remember those books that used to come out when we were teenagers? I think they still have them, Mills and Boons. And, yeah, I mean, in America, I don't think they're
okay. Maybe.
England and in India, a lot of us read Mills and Boons. It's like a Mills and Boon romance. So he's a bad boy. He's like all set for revenge. And he charms this woman because he wants to avenge his father's death by taking revenge, by falling in love with her and basically seeking revenge on her dad. Oh my God. It had me hooked.
Queen of the Game, guys. Queen of the Games, 2006. I know the actors because when you told me this was your favorite, I went, "What? Never heard of it."
John became my
Yeah.
man of all times because we all love bad boys.
Say the name again. What's the name of the actor so everyone hears it?
Eugene Moore and Park Bo Young.
Yeah, Tujimo. You guys know him in he's in a lot
Empress,
of stuff.
Empress Key.
Yeah, Empress Key, but he was also in it's really bothering me. But
Uh,
she's Lee Bo Young.
My love in Dong.
Yeah, my lovely Undong, yes. But then
I
Lee
love-
Bo Young is in everything. Lee Bo Young is in so much great stuff.
It was a terrible drama. I love Yundang, but I watched it for him. So I just watched it, and Jenny, I'm not kidding you. It was just so. It's just this bad boy, girl, love, revenge. Then his redemption. I was hooked. And there's episode 10, there's a cliffhanger. I sat through, I think I was up all night. I pulled that all-nighter. I had a morning shift. I had to watch till episode 13 if what happens next. When I knew that they were in safe zone, I thought, fine, I can give it a break. So I watched that drama thrice. Even if you put it on now for me, I will watch it. And there's a song, it's the theme song called Midnight Blue by the Electronic Sound Machine. I have it on loop all the time.
Wow,
And
yeah. So
in New Zealand and in Korea. And Winter is another character in the drama. So I just did a story for Sumpi on winter moments. Winter is the other character in the night because everything happens in winter.
I love that you said it. Winter is another character, right? All that matters to the story. Thank you for sharing that. So her favorites, Descendants of the Sun, Song Joong-gi, and Queen of the Game, Lee Bo Young and Chu Jin-mo. I mean, like those are just, yeah, good ones. Okay, I haven't seen Queen of the Game though. Anybody see Queen of the Game? Let me know. Put it in the chat box.
I doubt it. It's available on Drama Cool, guys, and on Kiss Asia. You're not going to find it on Wiki.
Yeah, I didn't see it on Viki.
You won't find it anywhere.
Yeah, another one to add to the watch list, 2006 drama, because she loves it. Okay, let's go to your questions. You had some really good thought-provoking questions. Let's go to your first one. We always like to ask our guests 10 questions. So this first one, how did you develop an interest in K-dramas and what inspired you to cover it? So you kind of shared how you developed the interest. Why don't you talk about what inspired you to cover them?
I wanted to cover it, but as I told you, nobody was like, Indian media was not, I mean, they just would, if you would suggest it, they just looked at you like, who's reading about it? Who's watching it? Because in India, there was just Northeast India was consuming K content because they had banned, the state had banned the Bollywood content here. So they had easy access to IRAG and KBS. So Northeast India was consuming a lot of K content. But, North India, Central India, West India was not consuming. So it was just like, I think maybe 5% of the pop, not even 5%, 0.5% was consuming it. So, I mean, nobody seemed to be interested. And I remember in 2018, I got an opportunity to visit Singapore for the Netflix slate, where they were introducing shows like Busted, and then there was Kingdom. Oh. I remember I went in for the Kingdom interview, and I had 2 more Indian journalists with me, and who were like, I mean, who would watch this in India? And I was like, fine, you may not care, but I know the lead guy. And he was in Five Fingers with Ji Chang-wook and Princess Oz. I am going in.
Yeah.
It's funny at that time, nobody even, because now Korean media does ask us for questions. They screen your questions before you sit down for an interview. Nobody even asked me for the questions. I went in, did the interview. I'm not kidding you. That interview got over 1 million views. It was just like a one-off. And we didn't even know proper subtitling, so much so that I put in the interpreters and dubbed it. Because nobody cared and cared less. I mean, I didn't even know who would watch it. Then I interviewed, now I forget the director's name who made Train to Busan. I interviewed him for Peninsula.
Yeah, well, we know Kong Yu was in it, so yeah.
So that did pretty okay, but nobody was consuming K content. Then I, started writing, okay, when Game of Thrones came, I said, I have never watched one episode of Game of Thrones. So I told a colleague, I said, why don't I write a story on 5 K-dramas to watch? She says, you know what? Why don't you combine it and make it 5 K-dramas and 5 Turkish dramas to watch? Because Turkish dramas were the flavor in India around 2018.
Yeah. This is 2018, 2019?
2019. Okay. Because nobody was consuming Korean content. I was like, fine, I did that. There were a few people saying, hey, I have watched this. Hey, I have seen that Korean drama. I was like, people are watching. Yeah, but there are just a few people like you, and maybe, but you could not convince your editors, like who's watching it, it's so niche.
Sure. It's all about, yeah.
Yeah, and 2019, I remember Crash Landing. I still remember the date. 19 December 2019, Crash Landing was screened. Who was watching Crash Landing other than people like there were other people. I was not the only one. There were like quite a few people. Maybe out of 1,000, there were 20 of us watching it. But there was no interest. And then the lockdown, March 20, the world comes to a standstill.
Remember that?
The very people I said, I remember putting my first thing for Instagram was 5K dramas to watch. I had people writing it, you started again? Nobody's watching this, Puja. I was like, okay. Within a month, I'm getting messages from people telling me, have you watched Crash Landing on You? Have you watched The One Class? Have you watched What's Wrong with Secretary Kim? I was like, I don't live under a rock. It's you who's been. And then everyone, I mean, every possible media, including the regional media, is covering Korean content. I remember I was the first Indian journalist to get an interview with the Squid Game cast. Then I got Gongyu.
Remember that. So proud of you.
I was very happy with myself. And then you saw everyone's covering it. There were fights, people calling up the network saying, why are you giving it to her? Give it to us.
Oh my.
If you're not competing amongst your own, then, you're just competing amongst your own as well. And it's just, now you know the way it is.
Yeah. So you're just saying from 2018 to 2019, and then before we went in global lockdown, K-dramas went boom tremendously in India from like that. When people stared at you going, what are you talking about? Yeah.
2017,
I got that look a lot, but yeah.
2017, I asked Netflix, why don't you have Korean titles? They had some show called White Nights. It was just unfair. I don't even know what that show was. They had only one drama in India. And they would send me shots of Okja. They said, oh, this is the film that's done well in Cannes. And also Parasite. Parasite had a role to play because when Parasite won the Oscar, suddenly the focus was on Korean films. But hey, Korea was always making these films. It was, they were making these movies. With Parasite and then the lockdown, and nobody had problems with that one, as Bong Joon himself said, the subtitles.
When it's I love his speech, his Academy Award speech. So
everyone doing that, and then suddenly Gongyu and Lee Min-ho and Ji Chang-wook became household names.
Which is so funny that the reason why I think it's funny, because besides the US, my next biggest following is India. So when you tell, and you keep reminding me, because we kind of talk about that and how nobody knew about it, and it was just us. To think 2018 is not that long ago, but then 2020, the pandemic happened, and then to look at the numerous Indian fanatics of
400% rise in the viewership of Korean titles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even like, that doesn't even faze me. That to me, they're the most avid fans. India, just FYI, they're the ones I get DMs from too.
Absolutely, and
have you seen this? And I love talking to them.
The first network that did a BTS interview and was the envy of many. Apparently, I heard from people, the anchor was not even sure that BTS was that popular, because suddenly, and he didn't realize that he was the envy of most of the people, that BTS was huge, so and
well, thank you for that. That so inspired you to cover it. You had to work hard to cover it, is what you're saying, which I hear a lot.
I know something. You know how persistent I am. That's so much so that I started learning the language as well. But to push my way through, to get access to the content, it's very difficult. It's like fighting a battle. It's actually fighting a battle.
Yeah, and I think we'll be talking about that further on with your questions. Let's go to the next question so you can answer some of these. And then you'll talk about that. If you had a chance to live inside a K-drama, which one would it be? I don't know who asked these questions. I feel like
it's interesting. It's very interesting because, the thing is, as we said, that we are the same age, we do know. I stalk fictional characters. I always fall in love with the character. Yeah. But this is a tough one but recently I just realized if I had a chance, I would go to 2521 and change the end. And time travel is I was never a time travel fan. I would want to do a time travel like a reborn rich,
Yeah.
marry my husband, and
And change
undo
the
all
ending
the
to what? To them, well, I don't know, people have probably seen it, but change it to what everybody else wants? 25,
I
21.
would want to correct the mistakes I made so that my life, because if you go back in the past, you know what has happened. I would rework the arrangement and maybe also sort a whole lot of things with a whole lot of people who wronged me. So
I
yeah.
love it. I love it. But 25, 21. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why Reborn Rich, and that's why, are you watching Marry My Husband? I forget if you're watching that. Yeah, that is why these are popular, because you could see people going back. Of course, we all want to do that. Going, if I had to go back in time, this is what I do.
I
So
could rework I could rework my blueprint.
interesting. 25, 21.
I would
Wow.
change
If I could go back to a K drama inside a K drama, you know what it would be? I thought about this because I love this question. Somebody. I just want to go to Jeju, that island right now. It used to be hometown cha cha cha. Somebody has trumped that. I'm like, let me just go to that right now and be their friend too.
it's just like it all seems so simple. It just seems that everything gets solved by the sea. If you just get a bit of sunshine, sea, and sand, because I love
Yeah.
the sea, sand, and the sun. You're right.
Yeah. No, that's so thank you for answering that. Yeah. Berta said twinkling watermelon. You're right. Yeah, twinkling watermelon.
I would just
I think there's more going back in time. It's just fun. I know it's total fantasy, but it's fun to watch. Okay, let's go to the next question. Great, great. Thank you for your answer. 25, 20. What are the key differences in Indian dramas and K dramas that you see?
very interesting because the fact is, firstly, Indian dramas had these seasons that never ended. There were 500, 600 shows, and that they ran for years and years and years. So,
Oh,
I will enact a moment. So, please excuse me, everyone. Like me and you have had an argument. So, it will be our expressions are going to be taken from various angles: slow mo, mid shot, long shot, close up. So a good 5 minutes has gone in it, and it's a half an hour show, basically 20 minutes with ads. So one episode has gone. So it's just that. And recently, what I've observed is just too much of violence and too much of sex. You don't need that.
Indian dramas?
Oh, please. It's just, I'm like, cut it out. It's okay. It is okay. I cannot watch it.
Wow.
I mean, it's not that I am a teenager who's going to go to awe. I am a grown woman, but I cannot watch it.
Wow,
So
I didn't know that. Yeah. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Ishiria says the clothes, Indian ones are so over the top. No one is dressing up so much.
I was coming to that. I was just coming to that. Also, another thing is a woman, like her mother-in-law, there's always been this mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, sister-in-laws fighting because we see that in K-dramas as well. But I don't understand a woman who's barely able to eat, but she's dressed properly. Her nails are manicured. And also, you're going to bed. You can't go to bed in wearing clothes that are equivalent to a wedding finery. So stuff like that. I just feel sometimes, though, also with K-dramas, I also feel it's family viewing, which is so important because I think the pandemic taught us that. It's a drama like a Sandal I can watch with my mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Watch with
People
my
can just walk into a K drama, almost all of them, aside from the Squid Games and the Glory, maybe, and walk in. It's okay if your kid watches, your grandmother. Yes, that's
I tell you, I was watching My Name. My Name is violent.
Yeah, it's violent. Yeah.
My teenage nephew sat with me and he was like, oh God, ouch, violence. But he was just sitting because he just told me, he says, he addressed me as aunt in our Bua. That's what we are called. Emo is Bua. And he said, it's okay. I watched Narcos. It's as good or as bad. He says, I watched Narcos. So I was like, yeah, fine. But then we watched Mr. Sunshine. So this 14-year-old was riveted by Mr. Sunshine. Family
There's
viewing.
some violence in that one too.
Yeah.
Because it goes with the story, but yeah, but Mr. Sunshine,
It's not going to embarrass you when you're watching with your parents, so it's not going to embarrass you when you're watching as a family. Also, I feel they are very relevant. Yes, I know they do pick up things that concern Korea, but I will say with Squid Game, it was essentially a Korean crisis because they have a large old age, unemployment, joblessness. But it struck a chord with everybody in the world because people had lost jobs, they had been laid off, they would do anything for money. I think India somewhere needs to connect with that for global viewing to make it retain your cultural essence.
Yeah.
People will watch you. But I think with India is we are somewhere trying to cater to, I don't know who are we trying to cater to, because all that sex, all that violence is too I think being influenced by the West and all. You don't need it. You don't need it. In a coming of age story of three young kids, I don't have to keep watching them making out. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
interesting.
sure.
That's
Yeah,
kind of sad. I mean, yeah, we tend to say that's Western influence, right? I mean, like, yeah, and that's always a fear in the K dramas. I'm glad to see that you still see that with K dramas, but that's kind of interesting with Indian dramas. Yeah, thanks for shedding light on that. Well, I guess that'll make more of the Indians watch K dramas
no,
with their family.
a lot of Indian my friends have told me that their parents, those who don't understand Korean, cannot follow the subtitles. Now they're
Yeah.
dubbing it in our local languages.
I heard that. Yeah, they're like dubbing it and like putting it in Hindi. Yeah, I think that's important. I think especially the older folks, it's hard to read quickly, you know? So I think that's great if they dub it and they can hear it
Like
because I know.
that landing was very similar to a popular Hindi movie called Veer Zara. It was about India, Pakistan is like North Korea and South Korea. But Veer Zara went into when they got old. Then they reunite after 20 years. In 16 episodes, in Crash Landing, and then of course the beautiful union of Hyunbin and Sonia Jin was closure for all of us. Like, it's not that they don't meet once in like a year or something. They are forever now. It was just
Mm,
beautifully told. It was just
yeah.
and 16 episodes, it's done with. Here
Mm.
it carries on and on and on and on.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that. I think that's why I'm not that into
the
sex.
problem with the violence and the sex and the expletives, the abuses.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are like, enough.
In Indian dramas, they use a lot of like they're like curse words. It's like, oh.
Passwords are Indian passwords.
Wow,
I don't.
I didn't know that. Well, thanks for sharing that. Now, someone shared Business Proposal got dubbed and has reached a lot of the Indian audience now. People who know nothing of K dramas has also heard of this. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why. I mean, I know we make fun of dubbed, we do. But then I've heard from lots of clients the benefits of their older parents or aging parents or the
I
older
think something
demographic.
very interesting. My aunt has this young girl whom she's kind of adopted, and she is from Uttar Pradesh, that's UP, and she's from the interiors. She doesn't know English, she knows Hindi, our language, but she watches K dramas in Hindi. And when I interviewed Imeno, she tells my mom, she said, "Oh, by the way, watched addressing me as Nuna, Didi, interviewing the Shah Rukh Khan of Korea, Imino." So my mom said, she says, "You interviewed Shah Rukh Khan of Korea, is it?" I go, "Who told you that?" She says, "Alia told me you interviewed Shah Rukh Khan of Korea." I said, "Yeah, Imino." She says, "Yeah, she watches all his dramas in Hindi on YouTube, and she told me that he is Shah Rukh Khan, and Shah Rukh Khan is the biggest star we have." So yeah, there you are.
Wow. But that's important to share. That to me is a more global reach of those pockets of people that, that you wouldn't think about, but are watching them and becoming these, fans. Someone shared, yeah. So in a business proposal. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Thank you for the engagement in the audience. I love it. What was the worst K drama ending from your own cultural perspective?
I have seen ends that I've wanted to work on. I thought Love Alarm was terrible. Love Alarm 2, the ending was terrible. 25-21, I want to change the ending, but it's really funny. A lot of my married friends, including my own sister-in-law, is telling me, it's fine. The ending was perfect. I think married women realize that first love does not stay forever, while singles like me feel, oh, first it's meant to be. I get that. But the
Yeah.
one drama, the ending, which I still remember, as soon as it ended, a friend of mine from Vancouver, one from Abu Dhabi, and the other from Chennai, we got onto a video call, was Nevertheless.
Yeah. Nevertheless, like with Songgang. Yeah.
Some,
So I mean, okay. Nevertheless, I couldn't even get past episode 7.
yeah.
So I don't even
That
know the
one-
ending.
that
What
one.
did you not like about the ending? Because how did it end?
He's a walking red flag. The man is a walking red flag. I know
Yes.
women. I mean, women, the way we work, we love the bad boys. We always feel we can change a man. But Jenny, I know at this age, you can't change anyone. He's a walking red flag. He's in it for what he's in it, but she's aware that the relationship has no label. There's another guy, a good boy who likes her. Nah, she wants him. And she accepts him because he says, I have changed. I want to know how their love story panned out.
Ah, okay. Yeah. I was just writing somebody back about Vagabond. Yeah, I could see that with Vagabond. Nevertheless, wow. So, I mean, that's not bad that you're only telling me one K-drama ending. The rest you felt like you could maneuver through, but that one was bad. Well,
I'm one of these people who doesn't like open ends. I like people to give me closure. Open ends get to me because keep making me think. Now, there was a, like, Record of Youth. I was like, did they get back together?
yeah.
Or maybe the end should have been like that. I'll keep devising different ends.
Yeah.
But I mean, nevertheless, I was like, why?
Open-ended. You know what? I think a lot of people don't. Some people will say they like it so it's room for interpretation. But if you're talking about the emotionality of it, people do want an ending that kind of ends. So you know, and you're not left to go, because we could think about a lot of bad things, a lot of bad things, a lot of good things. So
yeah, has said Alchemy of Souls. The thing is, I haven't watched it. A lot of people have been telling me about it. That
I have not watched Alchemy of Souls past like the first 5 episodes of season 1. Sorry, I will get there because I know people love it. But
sorry.
Yeah, you haven't accepted the change in the actress. Yeah, I can see that because of course they're very different. I love the first actress too. I don't know why we're so emotional about the actors. Well, because they play the characters that we fall in love with, and then you want to read up on the actors because you love their acting. I get obsessed with them too. I'm totally like, because I'm obsessed with Mary, my husband, right now. I shouldn't say obsessed. I don't tend to get obsessed, but I'm just like, okay, this actor.
I love the lead. He's just so cool.
But you know what? He was in Mr. Queen. He was in quite a bit of stuff. I didn't see The River Runs Through whatever he was in. I didn't see one of the ones he was in, but he is good. No, he's good, but he just stands out because he's a lead in this one. So part 2, I know I'll have to eventually watch that. But I love the engagement here. Yes, emotionally. So let me just talk about that. The open endings, people will tell me, oh, this is the way I wanted to end. I'm like, are you sure you really want? No, people want an ending, whether it's bad, which we don't like, but you want an ending because you're left with a little bit of uncomfortableness. That is fine if you're going to be a storyteller and it's all that. But overall, the uncomfortableness kind of doesn't feel good. Like we're
That's
like,
what 2021.
Yeah.
Because when he first Hido, that just tore me. And I still remember when he congratulates her on a wedding. I was away. A friend of mine messaged, she said, have you seen the show? She says, I think she's married someone else. I said, no, maybe he's congratulating her on their wedding. That had everyone invested. There were theories flying. I had never seen such engagement. The world was invested,
Oh yeah. I mean, that ending was one that, yeah, I could totally see that. Anyway, let's go on to the next question. But yeah, totally. So thank you for answering that. That was nevertheless. Okay, can you share some memorable moments, from your interactions with all these celebs? And I hear about them from you, but yeah, from K-dramas or Korean artists or industry professionals. What are some of your favorite moments?
So let me tell you first, I'll start with Gongyu. Juicy, as I call him. That man has such a calming aura. He is just has
Kongyu, guys. She loves Kongyu. Who doesn't? But he has a what? A calming
aura. Calm. It's just calm. Calm is the word, I think the only other actor I've experienced that with, that calmness, that, because I'm hyper. And there are times when you're highly strung and nervous. And this man suddenly comes on screen. You calm down. That was Hugh Jackman. And then it was Gongyu. Very calming presence. And also about with him is very intelligent. Extremely intelligent. So, and the other one who got me flustered was Lee Min-ho. I was not a Min-ho's ever. And I walked into the interview and they told me you have 8 minutes with Lee Min-ho. First, he wasn't even being part of that interview. And this was Parchin Ko.
Wait, 8 minutes? 8 minutes is pretty good.
8 minutes is pretty good. And the rest were all answering in English. So suddenly he comes on screen the way you did and he goes, hi, Puja. Jenny, I'm not kidding you. My questions, my paper, everything went flying. And I'm like, and then my mind is trying to process English or would it be in Korean? I've never got my questions jumbled. Never. So my second question became my first question. and he answered, he understood, but then for formalities, they do have an interpreter because he answered. And then I again asked that question in a different form. He's so smart. He realized that my charms worked on her. So, and he got it and he gave me the answer I wanted because he realized what I meant to ask, but I couldn't ask. So that, was just.
So Lee Min-ho and Kong Yu, folks, I guess that's why they're popular. Now,
I had a smile plastered like that because that man was my screensaver. From K2, his shirtless scene was my screensaver. He also was my mobile wallpaper from the K2. And suddenly when I interviewed him for Sound of Magic, if you see the video, I have this very silly smile. It's like this. It just wouldn't.
So you're talking about Ji Chang-wook. Ji Chang-wook from K2 and all, even saw somebody that were watching.
Drama. I love K2. I love K2.
Yeah. No, K2 was good. Yeah. This is such an interesting experience. Respect to actors who respect the journalists. Well, you know what? I mean, I love hearing this because I've had a good experience too. I'm not a journalist, but I told you the interactions, they're good people. Kong Yu, no, did not meet him in person. That's on the list. Kong Yu. Now, Lee Min-ho, I actually did hear good things about him too from people who acted with him in Pachinko.
Very charming.
They said he walks right in and they're like, is that Lee Min-ho? Calm. Yeah, the aura, but also not like extravagant. Like, look at me, right? That's the humility.
None of that. And he knew the impact he has. He's a charmer. I became a menos. Like his fans wrote to me, "You have been officially converted." I'm like,
wait, does Kong Yu have a fan base name?
Kong Yu is very popular in India. He is our coffee prince.
Of course he's popular, but I don't think he has a fandom, right? A fandom name. We should create one.
I agree with you because there's one thing about Gong Yu. He is extremely secure in his stardom. So people who are secure in their stardom don't feel the need to promote. Have you seen his posts? His first post was a squid.
Yeah. They're odd. Sometimes I'm like, what's he saying?
Or he has his cat. Or he'll post his breakfast.
Yeah.
That man does not, he is extreme. And you know what I liked about him was, firstly, he understands English very well because I congratulated him on his 20 years and his voice, he was like, thank you very much. And when I asked him, his answers were bang on because he had already processed the answers. And another thing, he's extremely candid. Like a lot of times I feel I don't blame those poor actors because the fandom and the media scrutinizes their every movement, every word, even if they sneeze at an inopportune time is not correct. But Gong Yu was like, I don't give a damn. He was the first person who told me, and then was Daniel Henney, another charmer, that's another story, who actually said that with Korea's, the K content being on an exponential rise, they just want Korea to be a little careful so that the bubble doesn't burst. They need to learn. Nobody's ever said that. They'll say, oh, we are feeling very proud. These men were like, they know it. They have experienced it. They know what international stardom is. Just said it. So with Daniel Henney, I met him for Wheel of Time in London. It was so cold. So, another thing is that he was so good in Wheel of Time as Lan. So I was interviewing him and I kept saying, why is he familiar? Why is he familiar? I said, yeah, he's a Korean. I've seen his show. Not realizing Seducing Mr. Perfect was my favorite movie. Very sweetly, he asked me, can I hold your mic for you? Because he saw I was struggling. I was on the red carpet.
So nice. He looks even better now. You guys, also, he was in, this is what brought him to stardom. My name is Kim Sam. Yeah, that brought him to that catapulted him.
So I know him, but I was just so taken in with his charisma. I finished the interview. I walk out. I'm like, oh my God, Puja, you stupid idiot. That was Seducing Mr. Perfect. I'm like,
how do you think that quickly? It's hard when you're faced with these actors, right? But yeah, I can tell you.
Can I hold your mic?
Yeah.
He gave me good answers. He says, the doors are ajar. We need to be very careful. We need to learn. You should not know. You should not think that we know everything. And then I'm sitting on the tube back home. This will happen in London. I'm like, you stupid fool. That was Seducing Mr. Perfect.
Oh, I know. That was a good movie. Oh, it's okay. But at least I'm sure there's more coming up. I think he's doing some other stuff that you'll get to interview him. Someone says, and the fact that us older women who watch K-dramas can enjoy actors who are good and older. Otherwise, I always feel like it's really all the young men, and I'm not sure if it's okay to be fangirling. Yes, it is. Doesn't
All of
fangirling?
them are younger than me, except for Lee Bin Hyun. Everyone else is younger than me. The men are like,
Yeah, I was about to say I don't want fangirling to have age because as we get older, like it's like no age for fangirling.
and Song Joong Ki.
She loves Song Joong Ki. He's not too young. I mean, it's like 10 years younger. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Because I love Song Joong Ki too.
Yeah.
Can you share your perspective on the growing popularity of K-dramas and K-pop in India and how it has impacted the Indian entertainment industry?
It's very interesting because Korea's rise as a soft power. Because Korea has done what America did with Levi's back in the 60s and the 70s, when everyone wanted to wear Levi's jeans and everyone wanted to go to America. Everyone wanted to consume American content, go to Hollywood Boulevard. Korea has done that. It's a soft power. Like everyone wants to have soju, everyone wants to have, K-beauty, K-pop, everything. Because I think somewhere also kudos to the South Korean government, especially because I think it's looked after by the cultural industry and they keep giving that the push. And in India, sadly, a lot of content is dictated by the studios and by the platforms. So somewhere writers are only looking at the market they have in hand. If they are not copying Hollywood and stories or making remakes of that, then they're catering to a pan-Indian audience by we have fabulous homegrown stories, fabulous stories. But your focus is so much on getting pan-India that it stays there. What Korea has done is, it's gone beyond Korea. It's gone across the world and everyone's liking it. Somebody from America actually told me this. I enjoy watching this is firstly community. She says because in America and in the UK, we live such secluded lives. We are isolated from family. Here, it's all about you still have the grandmother sending you kimchi boxes, your mother, it's the sense of belongingness. That's the word. Also, they're talking about their problems, but those are also universal problems. With India, I don't know, we need to take pride in that. We need to take pride in our content. And not, somewhere I think we get a little confused. Somewhere we want to cater it to international, but in I don't know what way. And then the focus remains because, hey, we don't need others to watch us. We anyways have a thriving industry, that attitude. And also, I think there needs to be synergy between the government and the makers, and also more impetus being given to writers and independent filmmakers. And another thing where Korea scores is the feminine female perspective. That's where I think Indian women are loving K-dramas, is because the Korean men, it's no shame to cry. They cook better than the woman. It's okay. Your woman can take the lead. You can be supporting her. That, I think, we all need that. And also, in Indian, I think, narratives, we've objectified the female form so much. For once here, we are seeing the men being objectified, because every time when you have a guy, you have the shower scene, you have him, it's all the female perspective. Then the women also are shown. They can be messy, but they're taking charge. So I think on various points, it's somewhere influencing not only the Indian entertainment industry, but I think world over, we are consuming so much of content from across the world. It's influencing our stories and narratives. And come on, India is, the remakes of Korean shows haven't done well.
They haven't? Well, I mean, I've heard that they haven't, but I guess you wonder why. Maybe I guess the original is always the original. The original is always the best, right?
I don't watch something in the rain with Indian actors. No, I can't. I cannot.
Yeah. Well, also because that's interesting. But so it's impacted in a way where, as in Korean content, is it being compared to Indian content? Like people are like,
not being compared. It's always take inspiration from what they're doing, right? Because the thing is, we have the biggest film industry. It's not only Bollywood, it's South India is huge. It's huge. And you had Jungkook singing Nato Nato from RR. Every Korean actor I meet, they know of Three Idiots. So it's just take inspiration with what they're doing right. Whether it's in terms of production, whether it's in terms of storytelling. and in terms of the themes that they're dealing with. So
Yeah.
just get inspired by that. Then also the writing, women writers. I mean, I think Korean women writers, kudos.
Yeah. And also most of them are writing the K-dramas.
Most
So
of them.
you're hearing that perspective of like women going, I want to see this, so I'm going to write about this. You know what I mean? So women reaching women. I mean, most of the viewership of K-dramas is still women. Still.
And imagine, Korea is now becoming the second language in schools in India, because earlier you had French, German, Spanish.
Spanish. Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Amazing.
I mean, the rise in people learning the Korean language. I mean, you're doing something right. I mean, I studied Japanese when I passed out of school. That was in 1990. I flunked it. For the longest time, I did not learn the language because I got 12 out of 100. And imagine at the age of 49, I am learning Korean in a class full of 21-year-olds who basically just wanted to understand K-pop lyrics.
Yeah.
Why were they doing it? I didn't want to become an interpreter. I said, I just want to understand the dramas and maybe have a conversation in Korean with the stars I'm interviewing.
Sure. I love it. I love it. I love that you're doing that. That's awesome. Okay, let's move on. This is such a good conversation. People are saying things like, yeah, support from the government. We could talk more about that with the Korean government. I have stuff to say on that. Let's see. How do you approach your research in interviews when covering Korean celebrities in interviews? Like, how do you research ahead of time? Do you, and then you talked about the language. So obviously you're learning a little bit to speak it. I've heard journalists do that. But yeah, how do you approach that? That's interesting.
So I read up about them, then I watch their previous interviews. Sometimes I don't get a time to watch. Earlier, I had that time, was that like Ji Chang-wook, I have watched his entire filmography. Song Joong-ki, I watched his entire filmography. But Hyun Bin, I watched his entire filmography. But currently, there is so much, and the new stars, I haven't been able to keep up. So I'll read up about the interviews. That ever since I started writing for a popular K website, I'll read up of what they have done. I'll watch drama content. I'll see. So that's the kind of research. Or sometimes I'll just call up people who have been in K dramas way longer than me. I'll just ask them like anything particular you think. I'll get my questions cross checked. Sometimes I'll brainstorm with, say, my 16-year-old nephew who doesn't watch content, who just sits and watches with me because now my sister-in-law is also hooked. He just thinks that the women in his family have lost it. So he just gives me another perspective. I think that would be interesting. Usually people do ask. There's one person, it's Eric Nam's podcast. I really enjoy watching because he is very insightful. He tries to bring out the human in the artist than the craft. And I've realized that I sometimes like to talk about their craft. They also want to talk a bit about themselves. So instead of taking a shout out, message for your Indian fans, Sarangi, with email, I just asked him like 20 years in the business, what next, producer? He was excited talking about that because it was something about him. So I do that, though I get told by fans saying, oh, you didn't take a shout out for us. You have to tell them how popular they are. I was like, most of them have gone to college. They know India exists. They know about the fandom. But I rather, in those 2 minutes, I rather ask them something about what they want to do, because about them, so try to do that. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's so important, of course, because we focusing on their work a lot is one thing, but asking about who they are or, their own personal passion is really important.
Maybe I want to produce, because he was doing his YouTube. Like Ji-chang, ask him, I'll be very honest with you. When I interviewed Ji-chang for Sound of Magic, he was a little stiff. When I interviewed him for Samdalri, it seemed he just had loosened up. He had loosened up. How his process has changed. He says, earlier I used to just spend time reading the script. He says, now I interact with people on the set. I try to position myself in that character.
I love him in it too. He does something different in this role. It's not like the hero role. It's a hero in a different sense, underrated hero.
I liked him for the fact that he played Hansu. I, by the way, loved Hansu's character because, again, he's a bad boy. But then his offense, I said, you're not a Prince Charming, and he's really not a nice guy. And it's true, Hansu is not a nice guy. I liked Imino's answer, saying that he's just a man who's basically, he's a victim of his own circumstances. I had fans told me, how are you so rude? You called her. It's a character. It's Lee Min-hee has written that character. It's not that Lee Min was a bad person. It's his character. And
Yeah, that's
a lot
important.
of
People have to separate the character from the actor, but sometimes people
they
don't.
need to do that because it's taking a toll on the actors too.
Of course, I've heard actors get hate from a
They're,
hateful character that they play, you know?
they're
So
human. And
that's
most of
hard.
the actors like playing negative roles because somewhere we are all human. It
Yeah.
helps. We all have inner demons. It helps them, you know, take it all out.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yes, I love Eric Nam's Mindset app. Just looking at some of the comments, people are thinking it's so cool that you learned a language. Never too late to learn, by the way. It's all actually better the older you get to use your brain to learn something new. Korean language is difficult too, so it's not easy, you know. So I love when I hear from you and other journalists going, Jeannie, I made it to the intermediate level. I'm like, that's so cool.
I've gone back to level 1 after the intermediate level because I still get confused between my ego and its soyo.
Yeah, those are hard. Like, you know, even I do too. Sometimes I'll say the wrong pronoun afterwards, and then I'll be like, I just said the wrong pronoun because it's hard. There's so many different things to remember in the formal, especially because I'm always in a formal setting. Anyway, let's go on and see if there's more questions. This conversation's amazing, Puja. You have so much to share. Have you encountered any misconceptions or stereotypes about Korean content? Oh, sharing among your Indian audience. Okay, how do you address? Okay, how do you address or debunk them?
I've shared that a whole lot of times.
But
firstly, I want to tell the Indian audience, I know a lot of them feel that it's funny, Jenny. I attended a webinar by the University of Chicago where this professor, Korean American professor, made a very important point. She's saying if all of you are thinking the moment you land in Korea that your K-drama will unfold, it won't. So when I visited Korea, I had people say, how is it? How is it? They actually thought I had the oppas and the unnis waiting for me. There are people who start their work very early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
They are struggling to earn their keep and they work very hard. You know, so it's not utopia. It's like any other bustling metropolis. But yes, it has a lot of history, like a whole lot of other countries. Other than that, the actor is not his character. You know, he is a human being. So they don't get that. I have got told several times for even things that I haven't done wrongly, just because this whole gatekeeping mentality has come up. I'm sure people in the US have also seen that. You cannot gatekeep. They are meant for the world and they know they're meant for the world. Also, you might like someone, I might like someone, I might not like the third person. It's individual, it's personal taste. As the email show goes, it's personal taste.
That's right.
Do not put me on, basically crucify me, saying just because I may not be a fan of your idol. So I got a lot of hate with this K-pop idol. I have nothing against her. I just said that I thought another actor would look good in this role. This was King the Land. It was just a very harmless tweet I put up. I said, I thought Kim Terry would make a nice sarang. I did not say anything against Yuna. I did not say anything against Juno. Within 2 hours, I had the Yuna fandom wanting me dead, wanting to crucify me, abusive to the core. And I realized most of the fans, they were not Koreans. They were not Koreans. They were Indians, they were Pakistanis, they were Indonesians and Filipinos. And women. I was like, firstly, in your country, in my country, we women are fighting for ourselves, our rights. You as women are putting another woman down. Not because I'm not putting someone down, I've just expressed an opinion.
Yeah.
So you were me. So then I remember we had written an article on 10 K-pop idols who are excellent actors. It's just that this list was made with editors and fan quest and fan votes were taken. She was not on our list. It had to be Puja Talwar. She purposely did not push you. I mean, come on, I'm just doing my job.
So just to clarify, you just did a tweet talking about King the Land. You just gave your opinion. You did not bust on anybody. And that fandom of Yunak, who played Chonsarang in King the Land, but like literally, it sounds very, so they gave you like death threats is what I'm hearing.
Death threats.
That's terrible.
Even when you complain about these death threats, they're saying it does not agree. Oh no, it was not in violation of our Twitter policies, X policies. I'm like, what? This
Wow.
happens in India with a few stars. Some fandoms cannot, it's what we discussed once, the parasocial relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one day I had to say it. I said, the way you behave reflects on the fandom, reflects on the star. She wouldn't know that. And if she was to know, maybe she would cancel you all out. But it's just a reflection. There are others who are okay. Everyone said Mino just plays the same roles, the rich boy. His fandom didn't react. They were okay with it.
That's a good point. I've said that before, like a person's fandom, like a person's community. I believe this does reflect on the character of that community. So for instance, BTS Army, they're generally very pleasant and very strong belongingness. Like I would hope nobody in my community would be mean to each other, because then I feel like there's a reflection of me, right? And so I think you're bringing up a good point, that those fandoms, first of all, that's horrific. Like if for anybody to say go and die, I think that's like terrible.
I'll tell you something. A journalist in India also tried to passive troll me. When you're writing an article, you know that now you're starting Nuna's nuances. There's a word limit. After 750 words in the newspaper, the editor will say, "Hey, can I cancel this bit out because we are anyway stating this?" You're like, "Yeah, okay." So I'd interviewed Jin Young, and we just said that we had a comeback with Na Na Na, and we didn't mention the album. She says, because word limit, we have ads. I understand newspapers need revenue to survive. I have a journalist saying, "Hey, private message like a well-wisher, you're going to get trolled by his fans, because you haven't mentioned that. So I just thought you should be careful." Guess what? Jin Young's fans had no problem. They actually sent me the sweetest messages saying, "Thank you for a lovely article. Thank you for bringing insights." And this was the same journalist when Yuna's fandom was cussing me out. She was like, "Yeah, we were all looking forward to this, but some people just have their thing." Where is this hate coming from? I have not said a word against Yuna. Instead, I did a 6 best Yuna shows to watch. She's a very charming girl. And
wow. I'm still on the fact that must have been so hard. I mean, that is very extremely hard. You're sharing the little bit of the dark side of journalism.
But then you do see how it plays out in the celebrity's life as well. We just recently lost a very good person because he was cancelled. He is a human being. His family is destroyed. Yeah. Why do you have to cancel him? Please, let's not separate the character from the actor. They could be a perfect family man, but he just might be an eternal bachelor. It's okay. So that's why I don't let, the actors I like, they could do anything in the personal life. I don't let that impact me, because also being up close and personal with Bollywood and Hollywood, and you realize they're human beings. They're really human beings. They have all, somebody like a Robert Downey Jr. has fought alcohol addiction. He talks about that openly. Dare any South Korean actor speak about it? Poor child will get, I'm saying because I'm old, he'll get cancelled. It's okay. We are all dealing with our demons. They don't talk about mental health because they would be judged.
Yeah. Someone's saying this seems to be a big problem these days. Well, the truth is too, the more you are in the limelight, there is extremely a lot more pressure. So in some sense, you almost think, of course, that pressure is so intense that how do you cope? Do you know what I mean? So what I'm trying to say is more mistakes may happen when you're in that limelight because it's just so difficult. So
I could understand what happened with Lee Sun-kyun. I actually empathize with that man for him to do what he did. I feel everyone who trolled him, you have blood on your hands. They're human beings. Let them be. Similarly, a journalist is also a human being. I have no agenda. For me, a Yuna, a Kim Teri, a Sonia, they're actors. I like their work. It's just because if I say, I just feel Song Joong Ki has better chemistry with so-and-so. Jeon Yo Bin and his chemistry was the best. That doesn't mean I didn't enjoy his chemistry with Song Hye Kyo.
Yeah.
If Song Hye Kyo and Song Joong Ki, you've seen how poor guy got trolled. It's okay. They managed to work out. He's found happiness with someone else. You ruined that poor girl. The stress you gave that girl that she ran away to have a baby in her own country. So it's just
a lot. No, thanks for bringing that up. I know, yes, the tragicness of Lee Sun-kyun is still raw, but
never has a celebrity.
We got to hope that there's change coming, which we see. But the reality is we have to talk about this more.
Yeah.
But oh gosh, Puja, so thank you for shedding light on your difficult experiences of also getting trolled.
Yeah.
That is super difficult.
I had these podcasters in India who accused me for lifting their content when I had not, because they had done a podcast on what? Korean dramas and food. I had written an article and done a video on Korean dramas and food. There are those many Korean dramas and food. I mean, kimchi is not going to change elsewhere. Like when you talk about highlights of, of a baseball player, you're going to speak about his strikes, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
it's going to be the same thing, right? They just took off on me, trolling me. And yes, I don't think the podcast even exists now. So I just want to say, buddies, what happened?
So you wrote on K dramas and food, K food, which it's like so popular. And
Currently, I had to
you were
edit.
taking
It
their.
took long to edit, and it came after their podcast. I think, a few months
This
ago,
is why.
congratulated them on their podcast. I never even heard their podcast, but they insisted it was inspired by the podcast. These poor women.
And you know what? We can't change people's minds. We can't change people. But this is where I'm like, I hope, like, you have a friend in me, but I was going to say, this is where we need your community. You need to know who your support system is.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many times I need to emphasize that. You just got to know who you'll go to because, yeah, there's meanness in this world. That's the sad part, right?
And that was like hurting. I mean, like, how can you just accuse someone because you're a nameless, faceless person and you've got connections in the government?
I did not realize how harsh some of these comments are to you. Is that the last question, by the way? Is there another question? I want to make sure we get through them because we just got, okay. I actually think this is the last question. What do you think? Well, on that note, what do you think contributes to the universal appeal? You kind of touched on it, but why is it so enjoyable? Let's talk about the upbeat side. What makes things so enjoyable? Why has K-dramas gone so global?
It's again, the stories hit home. The stories hit home. And it's family with community viewing. There's a sense of belongingness. Also, I must say that what really gets me, I mean, it's just so beautiful. I mean, the way Korea is shown, everything is shown is just like, it's what you read in the storybook. It's like your storybook has come to you. And also they touch upon various genres. What I'm liking now is like a Glory touch upon bullying. You have Tomorrow that's touched upon suicide because, but then you also have a Welcome to Sambalji. You have a Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha on the other hand. So it's basically very relatable content. It's extreme. I'm not kidding you. In these 7 years, I have not watched an American show. An English show. I haven't.
Me neither. I think I've seen some movies, not as many shows.
On the flight, like White Lotus, I've watched on the flight. But if I have some K content to go through, I'll watch that because I just don't get involved. And also, again, with Indian content, there's so much of cuss words, there's so much of sex and violence.
Wow.
I love popos. I'm the queen of popos. I was like, I keep telling my friends, is there a kiss in this? And I'm watching. But you see a Mr. Sunshine without a single kiss in that show, the love story is so intense.
Isn't it? Yeah. I just realized you were saying popos. Yeah. Cracking up. Popos kiss. Mr. Sunshine. Now, some people got mad at that, but I just thought that's what made it so beautiful.
It was just that's another end I need to change. Eugene Choi and Asin had a happily ever after.
So so we could talk about that, and of course, we just gave a big spoiler. But yes, the ending was not unhappy, but just not in the way of the love story. Yeah, I mean, I remember watching it, and my husband and I are both like, "What just happened?" We didn't see that coming. But wow, so yeah, you just said it, the global appeal. But then, just to wrap things up, overall. You said something very interesting about Korean content and the reality of what it really is. At the end of the day, we're seeing the realistic themes, but your message was interesting, saying that doesn't mean what we see in K-dramas is realistic, like the oppas coming out of nowhere and chobos coming out and right. And I always try to emphasize that to people.
What RM said, that Korea is a country that's worked hard because, like India too, we were under 250 years of British colonization. Korea was under Japan. You see now, I like the fact that also Koreans are questioning what happened. Like, I think kudos to Park Seo-joon for doing Gyeongsong Creature. I think Japan is not too happy, but somewhere these are realities and we need to face up and don't give them hate. Like Han So-hee is getting hate. She's just a character. Now, poor Park Min-young, her popularity has gone down because something happened in drama's ratings have gone down. Something happened in a person.
I was going to say something about Park Min-young's scandal. First of all, that scandal is a year old. So someone just resurfaced it, you know, like interestingly enough, during the time of her drama. So when I see stuff like that, I just tend to ignore it unless it's something new. But it's that
Doesn't
drama's old, it was resolved, you
doesn't
know?
impact it. It happened. It's happened, it's gone. Just enjoy the drama. So, it's interesting. And also what he said, that's why they're building themselves up. So they're hardworking people. They also want to see perfection. They build themselves from scratch because on one thing you applaud where this country, and I think it was 19 around after Descendants of the Sun. I think it was the exponential rise of K content across China and all. It was there, but it blew up. It really blew up because
Yeah.
I think Crash Landing was the Descendants of the Sun of the 2020 because that really became the go-to drama. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's
At
just
the
amazing.
timing of the pandemic. No, I love this comment. They said, Nuna, or you can call me Unni too. Bring Puja back. Love her. Puja has so much to share to others in so many areas relating back
Thank
to
you so much.
and life in general. Yes, she does. We talk a lot offline too. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
lots of conversations. I mean, at the end of the day, so thank you, Puja. Yeah, you have so much to share. Of course, I'll bring you back. But yes, talking about the reality of the society versus K dramas, I always tell people what worries me is again, the situations aren't realistic per se, but the people's characters are. Like when you see someone like a chebo going through a tough time, that is what I want you to focus on. That experience is real.
And it's amazing when they show, like for that matter, in Samdalri, the assistant, she's just playing her part. But you hate her so much, that means she's really excelled in a part. But that doesn't mean she is like that in real life.
No. Yeah, I mean, I'm hating the somebody character, right? The assistant, and then you dislike the married my husband, whatever. If the K dramas make you do that actually really well, they can make you hate a character. They do
They
such a good job with, well, first of all, acting, but the writing. Like, think of that. The actor has to envision it, but that's another good thing that K dramas do. You actually hate the character, the main character.
Ji Chang-wook, you just love him. He's a walking green flag. Yeon Bin, Captain, a walking green flag. Ji
Who's the
Chang-wook,
walking green flag?
Ji Chang-wook in Samgalri.
Oh yeah,
Yeon Bin.
totally. Yeah, I love when people say green flag. He's a beautiful character.
Where do you find men like that? That's why I think
And
women.
they do exist. They just fly under the radar. And his character is not a chebol. Actually, my husband and I were saying how realistic his character is. Like he's a normal person, weather forecaster, living in whatever, and yet he's the hero, And so
let her pursue her ambition and silently supported her, despite the fact that his heart has been broken.
Yeah,
it's just beautiful.
I know. And somebody ends this weekend, and I'm eager to see the finale. But you guys, yes, it makes you feel the emotions. Puja, you were my one of my favorite guests, and also the longest show, which means you had so much to share. Yes, we could talk about that. Someone's saying that you and I should watch a show together and dissect it. We actually do offline, but maybe we'll do it on the screen. Going, let's talk about the show, right? There's so many like deep dive together. Yeah. Puja, love you. Thank you so much for being here. Yes. We'll talk offline. What were you going to say?
Unburdened after thanks to the trolls. Now take that. I am going to go back in time and go to sort it all out.
Yeah, and then don't let me know about. Oh, did you just see those hearts?
Oh yes.
How did I do that? Okay. Well, I did that before, but I can't figure it out. But thank you so much for coming. And don't tell me about the somebody ending. We'll talk about it later when we watch it.
Thank you.
Bye. Guys, wow, this was my longest show. Thank you for sticking with us. Isn't she amazing? Yeah. So I have some good friends who I'd love to talk about K-dramas with, and we can, shoot the breeze, but also relax together. The only thing I wanted to bring up was this K-pop article because of Nuna's nuances. We can talk about this stuff. I love the fact that the K-pop industry is really making a difference. This is historic legislation. That's why I had to make a post on it because it's a big deal. And so the fact that they're really trying to protect these future idols with the mental health resources, they're going to bring in counseling and they're going to really look at how they're, I guess, in some sense, bringing up these idols because I think they know it's not sustainable. I mean, that's my take, right? No one's saying it's not sustainable, but how can you can't sustain like this. So I had to highlight that they are really doing their best to protect the mental health of these future artists for us to enjoy music for years to come. So that's my way of ending on that note, because everything ties back to mental health. I always tell people mental health is a horizontal, not a vertical. It goes through everything. And I say that to organizations. Thank you. I'm glad you had a longer podcast. Thank you for staying with us. And she has so much to share. And I want to comment on her saying some of the haters that she get. That's extremely difficult part of her life. Can you imagine that? So let's just, in that sense, think of, I mean, it's not, reach out to her, give her a DM, but I think that's super, super, super terrible that people can be that mean. And that happens. That does happen. But that's why it's really important that we have each other. So thanks, guys. Yeah, I was talking about that, right? I love you guys. Thank you for sticking with me on a Saturday night, probably for you in Asia, and Saturday morning for those of you on the West Coast. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.